Welcome to the Beyond the Bucket Show, a podcast centered around optimizing all lives' buckets. We all have buckets we are balancing: coaching, entrepreneurial ventures, family, passion projects, and health. Let's all take this journey together and become bucket fillers. And here's your host, Chris McSwain.
Welcome back to Beyond the Bucket Show. We have another fantastic episode. They're all fantastic, but today is especially fantastic because I have my good friend, Coach Alex Sarrett from Bellarmine College Prep. He has been at Bellarmine for about 10 years or so, and he just took over as the head men's basketball coach over there. And I'm really excited to have him on the show and just really dive into his story. So without further ado, Coach Sarrett, welcome to the show.
What's up, Chris? Thanks for having me.
Man, it's been a long time. You were one of the first guests on the show during the pandemic. We did like a pandemic review of everything that we were doing at the time, and so quite a few things have changed in that time period. But what's notable that you can speak on since we last jumped on?
Family's bigger, and everybody's healthy and happy, so that's great. It's been great to see this podcast grow and see you do your thing in this space. So happy for you. We've done a couple of business ventures in that time. So yeah, man, a lot of hats to wear, a lot of things to juggle, but life is good.
For sure. Just give everybody a little quick 2-minute backstory on you and just kind of give some context. I've known you for the last 10 years and I know you pretty well, but for somebody that's listening for the first time, I want you to give a quick rundown about yourself.
Yeah, I think I met Chris coaching. I started here at Bellarmine, like you said, 10 years ago as a freshman assistant coach. And that same year, Jamon Osby, who was part of the Top Flight program at the time, introduced me to Chris and Giles. And we kind of were able to grow our friendship and coach those teams up. And we had a lot of talent back then. So since then, I've worked my way through the Bellarmine program, being a JV head coach, being a varsity assistant for all those years, and really just kind of try to keep my head down and build up what we got going on here at Bellarmine College Prep. Our longtime tenured head coach retired, and I applied and luckily got the job. And so here we are trying to put us on the map and build our program and make this something great.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about that as far as taking over the program. You've obviously been in the program for a while, but what were some of the things that you wanted to do? Bellarmine has had a great legacy and a tradition of, high-level basketball programs, and I know you have been a great part of that recent success, even though you weren't the head coach. But talk about some of the things that you wanted to do personally when you first got the job.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out to me the most is that you have to want to put a personal touch on what you want for your program. So there's Bellarmine, and it has its reputation in the style of basketball that we have played all those years. And I wanted to put a modernized spin on things and kind of open it up so that people view our program as a progressing and forever kind of staying ahead of the game in terms of how we develop players and how we run things and how we try to cultivate our players to be successful and push them to the next level. So that was definitely a focal point for me. As you know, at being a head coach is you're nothing without your staff, right? So I think for me, getting the right people in place and making sure that you cultivate those relationships and take care of those people, that's been huge for me and a focal point for me. Definitely just trying to build, our lower levels up and have that translate to varsity success. And then, hopefully that puts our reputation out here in these streets. The Bellarmine's the place to be, and have your son come play hoop for us.
For sure. So tell me, what was like the whirlwind when you first got the job and all the things that you have to do as a head coach and that you don't really have to do as an assistant coach? So I just remember just like being hit with so much. Oh. What was like some of the most or more difficult things that you had to manage when you first got the job in your first summer and your first, summer program, and then you go into all these first. So tell me about that.
So right away, as soon as I got hired for the job, 2 days later, our dead period ended and that summer league started. And in the meantime, one of the assistant coaches who stayed on, Coach Duncan, he had signed us up for the Stanford team camp. And I had seen the brackets, it's still kind of part of what was going on through the interview process. But we had 2 days to make a team and get ready to play Jesuit, Vanden, Endercombe, like all these top level NorCal teams. And we had 2 days to put it all together, right? We hadn't even formed a team. We hadn't really had practices. So essentially the tryouts served as practices, and then we were out there playing. And so just to get us the system in place, the schedules in place, the communication right, that was a lot just to start out. And then obviously you get thrown into what does my preseason look like? What are our strength and conditioning workouts look like? What does the schedule look like? Are we all set there? So it's just trying to check all those boxes, and obviously not trying to bite off more than you can chew at once, and trying to kind of compartmentalize things and break it down. But yeah, like you said, it's like a flood. The floodgate opened up as soon as I got that job, and you're communications all over the place, emails from coaches, getting on these lists, and it's a ton. It's a ton of work.
Yeah, it's a wild ride. Before we continue, like where you're at currently, I want to go back to when you first started coaching. How did you first get involved with coaching basketball? I know you played at a high level when you were in high school, went to Bellarmine the first part of your high school career and stuff like that. So how did you get involved into coaching?
So my cousin, who is now the head coach at down in LA, he was on Jay Sarrett's staff at the time. He was working out all these high-level kids and ran a little workout facility down there called Basketball Realm. So I had been working in the banking industry, and it wasn't really a fulfilling thing for me. It was more just work, right? And I didn't want to be so singularly motivated by like trying to make money, right? And so I knew that I wanted to be a part of the basketball community, because I know in my earlier life, like basketball probably saved my life in a lot of ways. And so if it wasn't just my love and passion for the game, I would have gone down some dark roads and maybe not be where I am today. So I knew that that's what a good avenue for me to try to impact youth and give back. I knew that that's what I wanted to pursue. So I had taken a trip down to visit my cousin, got to spend some time with him in his gym, working out with some high-level players. And he had like a couple of kids from Modern Day at the time and a couple of Jay Sarrett kids at the time that went on to play college and have good careers. And I just saw the type of work and attention to detail and the benefit of his presence with those kids, and was like, I got to do this. So luckily some spots opened up at Bellarmine. My dad was working here at the time and put me in touch with the coaching staff here. And I said, I'll take anything. So I got put on as a freshman A and B assistant coach, right? And so it was great. I was happy to be here, put my head down. I think I linked up with you guys in the spring, coached the 16U team. And it's been going great ever since, man. I've loved the experiences and obviously the relationships. And so, yeah, man, I'm happy I made the life change.
It's just so wild. I started coaching in 2004. I was still in college, but I would come back and help out at my high school during the winters. And then I also started coaching a middle school team out there up in Oregon, where I was going to school at. And I just started being around the game so much. And I just can't believe that the time has gone by so quickly, to the fact that it's going to be my 20th year coaching next year. Like, that to me is just wild. When you just think about everything that has gone by, and just like all the different memories that we've had coaching basketball. We've had some great wins. We've had some tremendously defeating defeats. Just the ups and downs of just coaching basketball. But why don't you talk about some of the ups and downs you've had coaching in your tenure as a coach?
I think if you can kind of compartmentalize the wins and the losses, right, and focus on the relationships, that's like what I've learned throughout the process. But like you're alluding to, like, there are losses that will never leave my mind ever, right? And as a coach, you kind of torture yourself by breaking it down in your head post game, and then revisiting it later, a couple months down the road, and then watching the film, breaking that down, and going like, obviously I'm going to take the blame first. And so it's, even as an assistant coach, like, I could have inserted myself here to call this play, or, we should have switched this up. I should have made that suggestion. And I mean, I know you do that too. We've talked about it in the past, where it's like those sleepless nights after those wins, and some of those just burn your memory. So I think those also are like probably your biggest growth opportunities and best ways to help you learn, right? Even though it's heartbreaking and monumental at the moment, but it's just part of the game. But then it always has to revert back to the care for the kids and making sure that those experiences help shape them into what we want out of them, which is like to create good people, right? Because we coach, and it's about basketball, and we love the wins and losses because we're super competitive and our personalities are that way. But like, if we're not doing this to try to make good people, then what are we really doing? So
for sure.
That's the things that stand out to me the most. But like losing a NorCal championship or losing a NorCal semifinal game to get into the championship by 2 points. Well, you ain't never gonna forget that. Losing those open division CCS games after we went 5 times and only won once. Man, those are all crushing. So
right.
I
hear you. I was just literally watching yesterday. I watched our NorCal. Well, like this whole week, I watched both our NorCal games, and then I watched our last CCS game, and you just bring back all that agony. And I'm literally studying my demeanor on the sidelines. I'm studying the players' demeanor. I'm studying the other coaches. I'm studying the officials. I'm like rewinding, and I'm doing this while I'm working out at my home gym, but I'll rewind certain things like, damn, did I miss that? Did I miss that? Or something like that. It is really just agonizing. And, it's really like a drug, honestly. Coaching is really like a drug. It's a different sort of drug because, you get a lot from the games. Like there's no other place that I'd rather be on a Friday night than in a gym going against a rival and all your preparation versus all their preparation, and whoever is going to come out on top is going to come out on top. But I just love that fact. It's something that adrenaline rush. You just can't really beat it. You can't really explain it to somebody who's never done it. Like somebody that doesn't really like sports that much, try to put them in a position where they understand all this work that you're putting into to just get these 34 games a year. Like they have no clue. And
they think we're crazy too. They're like, what are you doing? Like,
and truth be told, we are crazy. I mean, what we do is pretty crazy. But what you mentioned, the care and the relationship piece that we're really trying to accomplish, like you mentioned, basketball saved your life in a lot of ways. Sports changed my life in a lot of ways because I wouldn't be doing the things that I am doing now if it wasn't for the sport, and the sport teaching me how to have a work ethic, how to show up every single day. And you stack the days, and then you stack the weeks, then you stack the months, then you stack the years, and then you look back and be like, man, I really accomplished a lot.
No doubt. What's your relationship like with the other coaches in the league?
I love the other coaches in the league. I think, especially in our, I love how you switched it up. You've been watching. You know how it's better when you just ask questions too. But I love the camaraderie within the league. It is very, very competitive. But at the end of the day, we are all basketball coaches. We all want the same thing. We want to benefit young people. And so when you take away the competitive nature of things that happen on a Friday night, then you really get to see who the person is. And I want to beat everybody in the league, just like I know you do. And I'm gonna flip the question on you in just a second. But I just think it's a special camaraderie, especially in our league, that how much hard work that they put into it. How prepared they are, and you have a lot of respect for everybody in the league. And it doesn't matter if you're the top team in the league or the worst team in the league. You know that you're going to get their best every single night. And if you don't show up, you have the opportunity to lose, period. I really love our league, and it's just been, 10 years in it now has been great. And then you've been in there just as long, and now you're on the head coaching side. So tell me about the relationship you have with all the men's coaches.
I mean, they're people that I respect in a way that I don't have for many other people in life, just in general. Like, how we dap after we shake players' hands, actually, like, we mean those daps because it's love. There are people that are just like me, and you can kind of see, some of the coaches over there with their kids right before the game real quick. And like, that's how I'm with my girls, so it's like, we're a lot more alike than we think, and then the cool part is, even though our personalities are pretty different, like, we're all type A competitors, right? So it's like, to be able to be in that moment and play those chess games and those games, and then after the game, it's all love. I'm gonna send you the film. What's up? Good luck with the rest of the season. And it's genuine and sincere. Like that's pretty cool. That's been cool for me to experience firsthand as the head guy. So definitely relationships I value. I talk to a lot of them pretty frequently. Your guy over at VC, Colin, he's a great dude, and I like bouncing ideas off of him and chopping it up with him when we get a chance to. So that's cool. And yeah, man, it's just I like being able to share the commonalities with those like-minded competitors, man. So yeah, it's been cool.
For sure. Yeah. I want to go back again. I want to talk to you about like the early days of the AAU, the early 2010s and that whole experience. I mean, we've had a lot of time on the road together with not just you, but all of our other friends too. And we have this common bond. It was almost like we were the one thing that brought us all together, kept us together, and it still keeps us together for that. Like, you guys just came over for dinner the other night, but those are more rare than when we actually get together for basketball purposes. And so I feel like, in a weird reason, basketball has kept a lot of my friendships together. I don't know if I would be, and the vice versa. I've lost a lot of friends because their alignment with basketball is no longer. And so our similar interests aren't the same. And so we kind of, just lose communication. Talk to me about those early days, how much fun we used to have on the road. And then if there's anything that really sticks out to you during that time period.
I mean, obviously we had a great time, like and getting to know one another too, right? Because when I first started out, I didn't know you guys, but we quickly found out how much we had in common, right? Just how we hung out with one another, how we, joked around with one another, type of bonds and stuff. So that was really cool, getting to spend those weekends with you guys and then competing. And obviously we broke down the psychopathic nature of us competing and what that meant. So, sitting there with the like-minded people breaking down those games, that was cool. I mean, we all grew as coaches too, because ain't nothing make you grow like a 40-point L to Cal Supreme in the wherever in the Open Gym Premier Gym down there, right? So it's like experiencing all that together. That was cool. I think that's what made some of our friendships like so strong.
And I don't want to cut you off, but I am going to cut you off. Just think about all the times that we would be watching 15 games a weekend, and we did that for 10 straight years. And how many extra repetitions you get, just like we're talking about our players. We were getting a lot of reps as coaches just because we'd walk by and see this and I can add that to my repertoire. I think it was like a real educational experience as well, just because you're around basketball. And I think, like you mentioned, we really matured as coaches too, but go ahead. I digress.
To bridge off that too, is like how many pros we see.
A lot of pros,
man. And like you see him at that high school level going like, oh yeah, he got a shot. And then you see it kind of like, oh, now that's the rookie of the year. Right? I think we saw like Lonzo Ball play a couple times and it was incredible.
Lonzo, and then we played against LaMelo.
Yep.
With the Tyler Johnson elite team, Stanley Johnson, whether it be Billy Preston from the Dream Vision, whether it be Jalen Green with the Rockets right now. I witnessed him doing all of those dunks firsthand, which is crazy. I remember when we were watching the point guard for the Pelicans, Alvarado, and we played against the New York Rens when he was 6 feet, but everybody else was pros 6'8" and up. Pros
Jordan
everywhere.
Nwora, everybody.
Yeah.
What was cool too is like, speaking of championship, right? This is good. I remember seeing Dennis Smith and Bam play together against the Ball brothers, and Bam broke a backboard at that Vegas Adidas tournament. And to see it like, oh yeah, that was an incredible display of just raw ability. And to see that firsthand, like you said, man, that helped us get so much better as coaches, just to be like, how would you even stop that, and to start strategizing and scheming up and talking about it with you guys? Yeah, man, that helped us. That helped all of us, So those experiences are awesome.
The point guard for the Knicks right now, Jalen, what's his last name?
Brunson.
We saw him.
He
was doing everything that he was doing in college, at high school, and now in the pros. It's just amazing.
The EYBL. That was that Sacramento stop back then. Yeah, man. He was the best player in the gym.
Yeah.
At 6'1".
It was wild.
He
was with Mac Irvin Fire too?
Yeah, he was with Mac Irvin.
Yeah, just great times. Yeah, I just have so many fond memories from those times. And as we get older, we can't really be out there like that because you have two children. I've got two children, and we both have wives. So it's really hard to, like, for any young coach out there that's listening, do all that stuff early before you have to have more obligations on your plate. So we were lucky to do that all, in our late 20s and early 30s, and we got that 8 to 10 year run out. So now we can more focus on our family and the things that we have going on outside of that, because basketball is still important to us, but I wouldn't say at that time it was the most important thing. Right now, I wouldn't say that is the most important thing. Actually, I know that is not the most important thing, even though we will spend a lot of time doing that.
You probably feel the same. I wish I would have balanced it a little bit better back then, to be honest. Like it was such a singular focus because we were so motivated in becoming this now, right? So it's like, but maybe we missed some steps back then. But it's all a learning experience. But I think that's great advice to these younger coaches. Like, yeah, man, get out there, get on the road. It's fun, right? Got to make your game times, right? Got to coach it up. Like, make sure it's about the basketball, but like, sit down and watch, man. Sit down and learn, and enjoy your time out there, because it's just phenomenal being on those circuits and seeing all that stuff happen, because it's rare. It's special basketball. You don't get to see that in our little small pocket of Silicon Valley, so.
Yep. And the relationship piece, I met so many fantastic parents and I'm still friends with to this day. We had one of our former players just get married last week, and I was, able to attend his wedding, and just seeing all those people that you came in contact with because of the game of basketball, but it had nothing to do with basketball that we were all there. It's because we all had a relationship. You had a point guard recently just graduate. He was first team All-League, and you saw him when he was 12 years old, and now you could see him as a young man at 18 years old, and to see the process and growth that he's had. Like, you just told me that story, but I remember that. I was like, man, that is kind of crazy how these things happen like that.
And it happens like in a flash, man. That was 6 years, like, went by so fast. And big shout out to his parents, man, just for trusting me and seeing what was going on and buying into the vision, and it all coming to fruition. Like, but we all know that that's rare nowadays. Like, people are quick to jump ship, and it all trickles down from the top, right? So it's the transfer portal stuff in the NCAA kind of gives people this odd sense of stuff, and for it not to go well, and to kind of stick it out and pay your dues and buckle down and work, man, that's rare. And that's what the kid did. He was a sophomore on our varsity team and didn't touch the floor much. And then he just built and just kept working and getting better and working on his body and focusing on the game. And to see him have the season he had, I think he averaged somewhere near 17 a game, ended up fourth in voting in league, hit that game-winning shot in our NorCal semifinal against Monroe. Like, that's awesome, man. And just to sit back and kind of watch it all play out, that's been a pretty cool experience for me.
Yeah, to piggyback off your original point where it's kind of trickled down, it actually started from the grassroots programs where, these kids would start playing on multiple AAU teams. So LeBron played with a bunch of different people in the NBA. Same thing with Kendrick Perkins or KD. They all played with each other. Even back in the day, Paul Pierce, as well as KG and Baron Davis, they were all on the same AAU team at one point, and all of them live in different areas throughout the United States. Now they have, the borders where you can only have to play with the state that is touching your state. But back then, that's who they all played with. And then you start to see it in the NBA, and then it only became a problem when the players started doing it. It was perfectly okay for Danny Ainge and the Celtics to maneuver and make sure that they got the big three with KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. But when the players decided to do it, a la Miami Heat and LeBron, that's when everybody started, oh, this isn't the way it's supposed to go. But the players orchestrated that to get to a situation, and they were all free agents. They were able to maneuver how they wanted to. So I just think it's interesting. But then now I think it's gotten really to a point where nobody wants to really work through that. Like you just mentioned, your point guard did not play as a sophomore, but he could have gone somewhere else. He could have went to maybe his local public school or something like that and just got on. But you can see the benefits of actually sticking through it. And when things are the most difficult, that's when you have to like really push through. Unless you don't see, I think if you don't see an angle for the end, but most of the things we can only see what's in front of us. We don't know what's right around that mountain. All you got to do is get right around this, and then it's all there for you. So yeah, I just think it's really interesting times, especially like football too. Football is crazy. Yeah. Basketball with over 1,000 people on both of the transfer portals. And the cool part about it is a lot of these kids end up staying in that transfer portal and don't end up. It's really the cream of the crop that get to go wherever they want. If you're not a cream of the crop type of person, you don't get to choose most of the time.
No doubt. I think the main issue with it is just like the lack of transparency. That's where both sides have an issue with it, right? Like if I recruit a kid and don't keep it real with him about maybe I thought he was something that he's not, and he's not, producing the way he is, and I lack the transparency to keep it real with the kid and tell him what it is, that's a problem. Now, the flip side of it is, the player comes and I'm only going to spend a year here before I'm trying to level up. That's a problem. But if both parties keep it real on both sides, I think there's a way to work through most of it, right? I think the issue becomes I'm lying to you essentially, and you're lying to me. And then, all right, obviously that's not going to be a healthy relationship. So for us here, I really try to keep it real with the kids and cultivate a relation or a system of transparency, right? So it's, meetings and letting you know what it is. And, we got the data, we got the numbers, we got the film. I'm going to show you everything. And, I have sometimes that hard, raw, honest truth that's hard for them to process. But at the end of the day, at least I told them what it was, and they can do with it what they will. They might not like it, but they might appreciate it down the road. And regardless, that's going to preserve the relationship. So
yeah, for sure. And I've also I didn't really want to talk to parents a whole lot early on in my career. I just thought this is a players and coaches type of deal. We keep them out of it. But now that I am a parent and I've been doing it for a long time, you need to bring the parents, and they got to understand too. You got to first and foremost, they have to know where your heart's at. So if you can tell the parent, look, I love your kid. I love your son. I love your daughter. And this is what I think they can work on and they can improve. And if they do those things, they'll get the opportunity. And sometimes it may take a year, it may take 2, it may take even 3. But hopefully by that 4th year, if they've done these necessary steps and not try to skip them, they'll have the full autonomy, the full playing time. Because most of the time, it's just really about playing time, unless you're mistreating a kid. But, that's not either of our style or most of the coach's style. It's just really about the kid's playing time. And you may say, or a parent may come to you and say, oh, this is it. But it's usually about the playing time. So if everybody can just be upfront and honest about it, I think it would alleviate some of the issues that you have. Because if you just if the communication breaks down, that's the only place where I see things not being patched up and remedied,
Yeah. Do you listen to that basketball leadership podcast?
Which one is it? Who is it?
I've heard Matt Hackenberg or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a painter on from Purdue.
Oh, I didn't listen to it.
He was talking about yeah, I'm going to give you the stuff to, be successful, all the information you need. But we also have to address the fact that there is a competitive hypocrisy where if, I'm 5'10" and you're 6'7" and we play the same position, but we still got to do what's right for the team, right? So the 6'7" guy who can shoot it the same as the 5'10" kid, well, he might get more of an opportunity, even though the 5'10" kid is doing everything the right way, right? So the issue becomes that being an elephant in the room that's not addressed, right? But if we keep it real, and this is it, but we still have these standards. I'm going to hold everybody to the same. Your value on the team doesn't change regardless of your skill level. Well, people can deal with that. So just being upfront with that communication, man, that's been a learning process for me, but also something that I value the most in this position that I have. So
yeah, and a lot of times it isn't fair. No. It isn't fair, but no. Life is not fair either, and especially not the size discrepancies that you may have or may not have on the basketball court. It's just a fact. Steph Curry's my favorite player, but if I had to choose between him and KD, if we're playing at the park, if I'm trying to win, I'm probably going to choose KD. That's just it. But it doesn't diminish what Steph is, because to me, I think he's the best. But at the end of the day, like is a discrepancy between the two. 1 6'11" and 1 6'2 and a half, 6'3". Yeah, what can you do with that? Now those two, like they're like 1A and 1B, but as far as like high school students are concerned, there's a big difference between a kid that is 6'7" on the men's side and a kid that is 5'10". There's just a big difference.
Think about the girls that you've had recruited out of your program. Like you might have had just taller kids just recruited because coaches want the size. They're always going to gamble on the size and double down on their ability to develop them. So I've got to explain that to the kids as well. Like, yeah, you might be averaging this, but the kid's got 5 inches on you, and a college coach is going to take that chance, right? So,
yeah, for sure.
Like you said, not fair all the time, but how the game goes. So,
yeah. Give me one AAU memory that you have, a story that you may have, whether it be on the court or off the court or something like that.
Man, so early on, we had that Tyler Johnson team, and they were probably 15 or 16 U's playing 16U. And we're like, how do we get these offers, man? We're seeing all this stuff posted. We're having all these conversations. How do you get an offer?
And we were beating all the teams.
We're beating these circuit teams. They're out there, Adidas and whatever. We're beating them. How do none of our guys have these offers, right? And what I came to realize, and we all came to realize, was that it was all about your program's equity, right? And the name that they had. And if you have this solid name and you put out this product and we coach them up, those offers will come. But we thought we're executing these great sets, and this, man, AAU is about showcasing talent, right? And so if you're not doing what you can to showcase those talents, you're doing the kids a disservice. So it's, we want to coach good teams, you want to organize it, but you also have to put kids in situations to let them be able to make plays. So with that being said, we finally are in the Fab 48 in Vegas, and we look at the baseline, and it's Bill Self, and it's everybody's, it's the who's who of college basketball looking at the baseline.
And half of them on their phone the whole time.
Half of them on their phone. So we're kind of paying attention to who's going out. So the weekend's going on, and finally we see Cincinnati sit down, right? And it's Darren Savina, who's at UCLA now. And I said, Jamon, I said, Cincinnati, who are they checking out? They're checking out Logan, right? And so Logan goes out. I think we play the Rens and lose because they have all those guys, but Logan shows out, and you can see him not looking at his phone, buckled into the game, watching this kid play. And so it was a trip to rewind and going like, how do we get here? And then to see it actually happen in front of your face, man, like that was so cool. And just to be in that environment, watching it play out and kind of helping the process, man, that was cool. And then to see, Jake was on that team, and Jake scored his 1,000th point earlier this year at Fairfield and sent us the video. I got a nice text from Dave, and like that type of stuff, to see those kids go into it and us not even knowing what was what into, 1,000-point careers and Logan going through the draft process right now. Like that is cool. Right. And we're lucky. Just as much as we helped them, they helped us. So
for sure.
It's cool. I got to sit down and have dinner with those two. Jake flew into town and Logan drove down from Moraga. So it's cool to sit down and have dinner with those kids and just see their growth as human beings. And like we said earlier in the podcast, like helping them become good people, and they're good people. So that's been awesome.
I got an off the court story. So I remember when we went to Indiana, and Jen, it was Indiana, right?
Yeah, we flew to Indianapolis. Yeah,
Indianapolis. Yeah. So Logan's mom, Jen Johnson, who's also Tyler Johnson's mom, is basically like the best momager there is.
Of all time,
like
man.
She is the best momager of all time. So everything is like detailed, from when we leave, how we're leaving, when we get there, when we get to a hotel, whatever. And so I know you remember this, but just for the listeners. So we get off the flight. It was pretty late at night. And we get to Indianapolis real late. And so I think we're playing the next day, but we get to the hotel. The hotel is a Red Roof Inn, which I don't know what city we were in. I think we were in Carmel, Indiana or something like that. But
something like that, yeah.
We get to the hotel. It's the absolute worst hotel. I'm not even going to tell you like some of the stuff that we saw besides roaches and just uncleanly linens. And
we banged that right to go down the street and knew it was bad.
Yeah. And you don't even want to read the Yelp reviews. So did we stay there that night?
We did, but we didn't really sleep. We spent the whole night on the laptop trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I'll let you continue.
Like we put like our hoodies over the pillows just in case we needed to, just lay our head down for a little bit. So that next morning, Jen had us at the Hilton. The next morning, all the rooms and
downtown Indianapolis,
Indianapolis, getting room service. It was a great pivot by a great woman, and I will never forget how quick and easily. And we did win. Did we come runner up that tournament, or we won? No, we went 5-1, I believe. And
we lost to the team from Canada that had Delano Bantam. That's now on the Raptors.
Yeah. Was that Team Canada or some?
Yeah, I think it was like Team Canada United or something. Man, there was out there.
There were so many good teams, and that's gonna lead up to my next question, is because every parent wants to know how their kid can be that. Okay, and from your experience, now that you've seen it, from kids going high major, from kids going low major, from kids not even making it and being really good in their high school. Like one of your best point guards several years ago didn't even get a college scholarship at the D1 level, and he was phenomenal. Like he never got tired ever. He never got tired. That whole time, he just played so hard. He would sprain his ankle. His dad would click it back in, and he would be ready to go. And he didn't end up playing in college. And he was one of the best players in the West Catholic League. Mm-hmm. So, for coaches that may not understand and parents who want to get their kids there, what is it? How does it happen? And just what's that process like?
I think early on, you have to get parents to understand that the level doesn't matter, right? I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Like, so everybody's got that D1 or bust mindset, but like, if we take a look at it, and like you alluded to the transfer portal, like there's kids that were on D1 teams last year that aren't going to play this next year, right? So it's like, what's the goal? So if we're realistic about the goal, and the goal is to play at the next level, maybe get some money to do it. Well, if that's a D2 school that's really good, let's take that. Right. And let's understand what that is. Now I've kind of seen all avenues happen. Like Ange could have for sure played any D2 he wanted, and probably low major D1 if we had found him the right spot. Now, in hindsight and knowing what we know now, could we have made that happen? Absolutely. Back then, with no context and trying to figure it out for the first time, we didn't get that done. So I think being upfront and honest about the process in the first place, that's huge, right? So if the goal is to get 4 years paid for, and that's at the D2 level, and they can offer you some money to do so, cool, let's do that. If it's a D1 kid, let's get him in the right exposure tournaments and help him get there. For the kids that like might develop later, it's about really buckling down and playing your level with a team that's going to develop you and give you that chance to get the skill set up, maybe help your body grow into it, emphasize some strength and conditioning or whatever, and position yourself to, that junior, senior year AAU season. All right, let's get in front of some coaches on a circuit and see if we can go that way. We have another cool story with Quinn. So Quinn went to didn't get recruited because of the COVID stuff very well. Ended up at Golden State Prep for 1 year, played well. Got on at San Marcos, played another year, went through some injuries and some health stuff, got healthy, coach leaves, and now he's got an offer at Idaho with 2 to play, right? So,
and he went to JC for either a year.
And he played a year at West Valley for Yosh. So it's been interesting to see all the different ways to kind of get to that spot, but to be that recruited D1 high major kid out of high school, like you got to hit the genetic lottery. Like you got to be already that big or that athletic or whatever. And so that's rare. And so we have to kind of keep it real with the parents about what that is. Now, if your kid's a 6'7", 8th grader, he's probably got a chance. If your kid's a 5'7", 8th grader, it's going to be a process. So,
right. And understand that like, that shouldn't be the main goal either, just to go D1. Like you said, it's either size or it's athleticism, and usually both. If you don't have both of those two things, it's going to be very difficult for you to be a high major guy. If you have one of the two things, it'll give you a good opportunity, but you have to be so elite. If you're smaller, you have to be so elite to have the opportunity to go against some of these guys that are just way bigger. And if you're tall, if you're, like you said, a 7-footer is probably going to go Division I. Just because if you can finish, you can defend, and you can kind of move, you're probably going to go D1. But I don't even know that many 7-footers, period. The tallest guy I know is 6'9", and the average height in the NBA is 6'7". The average height in college basketball is bordering between 6'4" and 6'5" on the men's side, and on the girls' side, it's getting much taller too. These girls are almost all of them are like 6 feet. They're like men's teams back in the 90s now. That's how big these girls teams are. It's phenomenal, like crazy.
It's cool to see the clips on the whatever hoops mixtapes or whatever, and it's like a girl banging out in a game. Like, whoa, or that's such a progression, like in a small amount of time. Like the GYBL, those girls can go.
Yep. So. And the girls' game is not just, so the WNBA is 25 years old, the NBA is 75 years old. But the game is like, the women's game is still in the infancy, but at the same point in time, the women's game is so far ahead of where the men's was when, like, because it's like women couldn't play basketball for a long time after basketball was invented. So they were already behind. And then, now, but they're really catching up. Like you said, I just watched the Overtime Elite. Paige was coaching the team, and these girls are like incredible. Like I could not even hoop with them at all. And I remember back in the day, like you used to think, we can hoop on any girl or whatever. Like my cousin was beating me forever, and she's in the WA, and she's way faster than me. She's more skilled than me. I'm taller and bigger, but she was just way better. She's an elite athlete. I'm just a good athlete, and it always makes me mad when the girl when we came in practice with you, you were like, "Dang, you guys like this?" And this was a couple years ago, when we had that really good team, but you're like, wow, you kind of impressed because you don't really know how good the girls are. But I was getting back to the point where the life lessons that you can learn through basketball will hopefully help them be more successful in their everyday life, because they have to go on a regimen every single day, 6 days a week for 6 straight months of practice. And then off season, it's summer league, it's workouts, it's all this. All that is helping them for their future. And so if parents have a short-minded mindset, I want my kid to start on varsity as a freshman. Well, that's just a short-minded mindset. You gotta think beyond this. What are my kids gaining because of this experience that they can have at Bellarmine, at Valley Christian, or wherever they're at? I think that needs to be like the singular focus in, think about what they can get from it instead of what they can get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But go ahead.
Like you said, that if I want my kid to start as a freshman on varsity, they got to understand how many people have actually been able to do that, right? And that's a small number. And on the girls' side, Northern California is like a pretty significant hotbed of basketball talent, right? So that's not that common, right? So it's like also sitting down, kind of breaking down the numbers every now and then with the parents has helped. I've had meetings earlier this year with parents about like, well, if this is what you want to accomplish, you got to understand this, right? These are the numbers. This is the stats on how this all works, and give them a realistic perspective, right? So
right.
That's important.
Yeah, and if you're not top 100, you're not going D1. Like you're probably not going you're definitely not going to a high major. That's a fact. But it's going to be very hard for you to go D1. And all these Division twos, they want Division I kids because they know that the transfer portal is going to be popping. They might not get the opportunity secondarily at the Division I level, and they got to go to Division II. And they would much rather have a Division I talent on their roster than a high school kid that's coming in. COVID really messed it up because everybody else got an extra year, but these coaches, like the Division twos, will wait till the very last minute. School will be almost out. It'd be May. They're waiting for these other guys to pop down so they can, take them off the board. And so it's just a really tough situation. Even Division III, we've sent a lot of kids to Division III, but those kids were the absolute best kids in the league, in the WCAL, not like just a regular league in the WCAL, whether that be like Karen Cruz, he comes to mind. Like and he's 6'4", 6'5", and can really shoot the ball. He was a 3-level scorer, and he's a Division III player right now.
He was also an adult at like 15. Like talking to the kid was like talking to you, right? Like he was so mature.
No, he's smarter than me.
yeah. It was just, I mean, we've reminisced on it all the time, but like you get these kids, like not only are they talented, but like a kid like Kieran was an adult. Like, he just spoke, carried his mannerisms, the way he talked to you, eye contact, handshake, one of the nicest kids of all time. Like that factors in as well. Your character matters too, right? So it's like, you have to kind of have it all. You have to be, your character has to be mature for your age. Your body has to be physically advanced. You got to have a skill set that's different. It's a lot to accomplish, right? So,
and all the kids that I know that have gone through it, whatever level that they've gotten to, nobody's struggling. No. Nobody's struggling in life because they did a whole bunch of hard stuff over and over and over. It's hard to get to that level. And that's why, my former boss, I always talk about him, Ron Felice. He's like the best mentor I've ever had, a Bellarmine grad, ironically. But he always talked about this. He's like, I want people that played in college. And he hired everybody that played in college, whatever it may be. It could be field hockey, it could be water polo, it could be swimming, basketball, football, baseball. It don't matter. I want to hire that person. If you went to college and you graduated and you got a degree and you played sports, well, I know you know how to get through adversity. And if you can do that, you're gonna be much more marketable. The kids, the NCAA has that commercial during the Final Four, and they talk about all those, non-Division I players that are doing really great things. Oh, this is a doctor. Oh, this is a scientist. Oh, this person's a coach or whatever. And you just see the translation from all that stuff to get to where you want to get to in life.
Yeah, it's like we're all going to go pro at something. That one?
Yeah. That's the one. Exactly.
Yeah, that's real, man. That's real. Yeah. And for Ron, it's like he wanted people that would commit to something. Right. And then obviously that's going to translate and pay dividends down when you actually have to work and pay your bills and take care of your family and stuff. So,
yep,
I get it.
And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of the players still, recognize the work that we put in when they were younger. And hopefully the kids that we have now will see that, because we do put a lot of time, energy, and effort to the betterment and well-being for them. The selfish nature of it is like, we just like to compete, right? But at the end of the day, we just care about people. And so that's the best thing, when you can have one of those kids come back, when you can break bread with them and you were hard on them, but there was experiences that you guys shared together. And through these experiences, you guys created that special bond that can never be broken, because you went through a lot of difficult things together. And for you guys to get on the same side of that, like, it's so very important. Like, you just get emotional even thinking about, like, man, all that stuff happened and we're still here.
Yeah, a couple cool things that have happened over the summer is, as these kids' seasons end and school ends for them, we get kids trickling back into the gym that have played here, and to get those runs going that are competitive, and then get our varsity kids playing against the college guys, that's great. But also just to sit down and chop it up with them, and then them, like, I'm sure you've heard this before, like, I appreciate how hard you were on me, or I appreciate you being, very less stickler about this specific thing, because that's all my coach asked me to do at the next level. That's, we have to do that all the time. And if I hadn't understood that, I would have struggled. Like, hearing that type of feedback or getting that kind of realization from a former player, like, that's the most fulfilling thing for me. Like, yeah, man, that's why we did all that. And so, it's great for our young kids to see those relationships, and that, that family still welcome back into the gym. It's great for the runs. It's great for the school to have our alumni back and part of the community. So yeah, I've been really enjoying, having the gym open, having guys roll back through from school. So
yeah, no doubt. I'm going to jump, stop, and pivot for a bit. Talk about, so for those that don't know, we run a business together. It's called Splash Lab. It's a basketball training facility that we have classes every single day and stuff like that. So we decided to do this during the pandemic when we had nothing going on. Tell me about how it is being a business owner and also having, a full-time job at Bellarmine. I know how it is directly, but I want to hear from your perspective.
Obviously, we're managing a lot of things at once, right? And so, being able to compartmentalize and break it all down and handle your stuff's important. We talk about those early AAU days, and I think that's actually when I think we all wish we would have had that business. And having been able to sit down and basically live in that gym when in our late 20s and before we had kids and other responsibilities, like sky's the limit for what we could have accomplished with Splash Slab. It's still great. Like the idea is great, that the kids getting in there and getting better and that kind of small instructional environment. That's huge. And so it's cool to kind of see what it's grown into. But again, like I think we both have the same mindset about like, damn, I wish I was 25 doing this thing, because I would have had kids rolling in there day and night, getting better and building those relationships that way too. So, everything's a learning experience. I think it's been good for us to learn a bunch about what we'd want to do differently, what we'd want to keep the same, how to modify things, how to make it maybe more efficient. But again, I'm 38 now, 2 kids. We can't spend the type of time that we wanted to spend in there. So definitely wish we could have done a little bit more with that early on. But it was great during the pandemic. We needed it.
What advice would you give, entrepreneurs or people looking to do a business specifically around basketball?
Basketball's tough. I think you have to have that client base already in existence. So if you're hoping that your marketing is going to yield the results that you want, like you kind of have to collaborate with the AAU program. We're lucky to kind of have Top Flight run adjacent to Splash Lab, right, with the clientele, and kind of offer packages where the two commingled. Like that helped us out big time. But if we were just Splash Lab with no AAU or club affiliation, that would have been tough. So I think definitely, for those young guys that want to open up those gyms, like align yourself with programs too in the area and see how you guys can kind of break bread together and make it mutually beneficial, so that you always have a consistent customer base. And then you grow your reputation word of mouth. You grow your reputation through kind of the lineage, right, with like a brother or younger brother of a player that you've coached and build it out that way. But it's work, man. It's a lot of work.
I think that they also have to understand the market research. Do your market research. We did have another business that was able to help supply the new business. And you mentioned it, you have to have a clientele list to be able to sustain it. And specifically in the South Bay area, there's not too many gyms. There's not too many facilities. And it's going to be very difficult because the commercial real estate is so expensive here. Anywhere else outside of this, in the East Bay, there are more inexpensive opportunities for commercial real estate. Definitely in the Valley, definitely out of state. But you have to understand where your circumstances are, and it's going to be very difficult if you can't put your full time and energy. And you do have to partner with people. Luckily, we have 3 people that kind of share the responsibilities of the gym. You have to have a really good team in place. And then if you want, like we're in the process of, potentially passing it on to somebody that works in the organization. And that for me is like what real mentorship is. It's like, hey, you put together this opportunity, you put it all together, and now you can pass it off to somebody else who can benefit, but you also benefit from it too. So I just think, and then collaboration too. You can't always do things yourself. Top Flight is something that, and you mentioned it in the very beginning, you got to have a great staff. Whether it be Valley Christian, whether it be Top Flight, whether it be just friendship in general, you got to have a great staff along with you. Or if they're not with you, at least be supportive in your vision and stuff like that. So you hit the nail on the head with that earlier.
Taking a look at this, what we've done with the business so far, what would you want to change?
I just think early on when we had the time, it was just great. I think when you can be there every single day, I think, your imprint is on the business. So I just think that understanding, like, we didn't know how long COVID was going to last, but once we got out of it, then other responsibilities start to occur. You've got real, or quote unquote real jobs that you have to attend on a day-to-day basis, and then you can't also neglect your family too. So I think the timing would have been better early on, but I still think it's been successful, and we were able to do something really cool for those 3 years. And if we ended up passing on to somebody else that can benefit from it, at least it's still in the community. So, and the same thing with Top Flight is, however long I continue to do it, we want to leave it in good hands with whoever takes it on after me. And same thing at Valley Christian. I want to treat everything with care, like you mentioned earlier on. And however long I'm at Valley, I want to make sure that that program's in a better place than when I picked it up. And I think that's just the general progression of life. It's just like a circle, no beginning and no end, but sometimes you have to pass that along to the next person.
No doubt.
Yeah. So as we start to wrap up here, what's some of your plans for Bellarmine basketball, and some of the things that you want to accomplish here in the next few years?
I think just being able to kind of build a reputation about, like I alluded to earlier, about how we play the game, and making this an attractive place for middle school kids to want to attend. That's definitely a priority of mine. Getting the players that we want, and building a system and a program that yields those results that we're looking for. And then, again, it's just being who I am, and making sure that I'm transparent with my players and building those relationships. The parents feel comfortable with me coaching their kids. All that is super important. So those are kind of like now goals, right, where we can kind of put things in place to make sure that that's functional. Long term, like you said, if I step off, I want to make sure that this doesn't, it's a sustainable thing. So, doing some work with the lower levels, making sure that that's in. And then, I want younger coaches on my staff that want to be head coaches. I think, that's a coaching proverb that doesn't get emphasized enough, but like, former players that want to come back and coach, I want to make sure I always have an opportunity for that. We're bringing on Nick Murtha as a freshman coach this year. Nice. And Nick played that's on that first 16U AAU team for TF. And so, like, to have that process come full circle is pretty cool. But like, Nick's a young, motivated, smart kid that is going to do big things. So making sure that our program is a platform to him to showcase his talents and grow the same way we did, right? So obviously passing it down, and it's kind of the expectation we have of our players too, right? Like, you guys are, I'm obviously the culture setter, but they're the culture drivers, right? So it's can you pass this down to the next generation? And it's kind of, we owe that too as coaches and mentors. Can we bless the younger guys that want to coach with our knowledge and our experiences to make sure that they can step in and be successful down the line if this is something they want to pursue? So those are the goals around here.
For sure. And the torch was obviously passed to both of us, and we had different mentors in our life, and people that helped us get into these positions that we are in. So we would be ignorant to think that we should not and willingly want to do the same thing for other people. How do you talked about balance earlier? How do you plan to balance your work-life schedule with 2 children and a wife, and then all the obligations that you have? Have any strategies for me? This is a selfish question too.
I mean, man, our spouses are incredible people. So it's doing everything to make sure that they're all set, with whatever they need, and obviously contributing with how we can contribute, and understand that maybe it's not always balanced with our spouses in terms of who's taking what, but that when we are there and present and ready to do what we need to do, we're in there and in the moment. So I think taking a time out from basketball every now and then to make sure I can be a good dad is super important, and understanding that. And then, when it comes time to grind, it's just about being organized, right? And so making sure our schedules are done in advance, and that people have the information that they need, and making sure the communication's on point, and we have systems in place to communicate things quickly and efficiently. And then just, buckling up and getting ready for the grind. And, there's so many variables that happen throughout the season, so many unforeseen issues that pop up and occur. So it's about being open-minded and flexible, and trying to do the best that we can. At the end of the day, that's all we're really trying to do, right? I'm trying to do the best job that I possibly can, knowing that I'm a flawed human being, going to make mistakes. Hopefully I can recover and make sure that everybody's having good experiences and it's fruitful for all. So
2 more questions. If there's somebody that should be on this show, who should it be? And before you answer, you have to make the connection.
Okay. Dang. Have you had Faf on here?
He's coming on tomorrow.
Okay. That doesn't count?
No.
I'm going to plug you.
It's got to be somebody that I don't really have the reach to get.
All right. What about I'm going to holler at Jason Greenfield from St. Ignatius for you.
There you go. I would love that. I would love that. I really want I want all the WCLs. We have most of the girls, but I'm gonna try to get every WCL. Like that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I'll plug you with Jay. Jay's a good dude.
Okay, I need him. And then, what do you have to plug? Is there anything that you got going on? If there was a coach or somebody that wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
The BCP Hoops Insta is formulated about a year ago. We're trying to grow that thing and build it up. It's just to have a platform for the kids and get schedules out there for these Cali Lives and this other stuff that we got going on. So hit us up, BCP_hoops on IG.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you for the conversation. It was a good one. We have these all the time, but now people can kind of get into the conversations that we do have. So, yeah, it was a good one.
I appreciate you having me on, brother.